People are brainwashed into believing in things because of culture and even other things. But this especially applies in the modern era. And this is due to primarily the modern Western education system. And not even just that, but just things in general. The thing is, most people are programmed. They're not thinking. From the time that you're a kid, from your childhood, you're taught what to think, not necessarily how to think. You're handed these belief systems, and it could be by obviously the society or the civilization that you live in, school, of course, even the media, of course, and of course your family. And you're given these belief systems, and you never really question it. Is what they're saying actually true, or is it not true? And on top of that, it's like the education system isn't there to really free your mind. It's there to mold you into an obedient worker. And again, I'm not here to necessarily bash on people that work, right? But think about one of the first questions they ask you, and that is, what do you want to do, like in terms of work? What do you want to work as when you get older? And it's like, what is your dream job, basically? It's like, who the hell is dreaming about working? Who the hell wants to, like, what kind of child is thinking, oh, yeah, I want to, you know, they're not really thinking about that, if we're being honest here. They've molded this into you as you get older. Oh, yeah, no, 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 you need to start thinking. It's very important that you start thinking today. And it's like, but you're a kid. You don't even necessarily get to enjoy your childhood. And it's like, a lot of it is really the fault of the parents, too, if we're being honest here, for putting, kids into these indoctrination camps, if we're being honest here, that because that's what this is at the end of the day. It's an indoctrination camp. And, regardless of what, you know, how much people want to, like, dick ride the school system, this is one thing you cannot ignore. And on top of that, it's like, not even just the school system. Programming runs even deeper through what is called cultural conditioning, right? So programming through, of course, culture and, of course, the institutions, which is where the cultures really are formed, if we're being honest here. It's from the institutions, right? And the culture basically equals conditioning. And they've basically brainwashed you into making you think that it's your choice. But it's really just an inherited dogma that you just observe because everyone else is doing it, so you do it too. And the problem with the school system is this, is that it rewards memorization, which is not like necessarily a bad skill per se. The things that they make you memorize is the problem here. It rewards you for memorization over creativity, and it rewards you for obedience over rebellion, of course. It's kind of interesting how the school system functions in a similar way how the government functions. Like, if you notice that parallel, the school system literally is functioning exactly like how the government is functioning. And it makes sense because, again, school systems are funded by the government. And then the mainstream media, of course, you know, programs, these values and fears and aspirations and propaganda that they have. And it's like from the moment you're born, culture like begins to write your code, right? You're handed all these customs and values and beliefs without ever being asked if you actually agree with them, right? These schools don't really teach you how to think. They only teach you how to comply. And you're not really rewarded for like, innovation. What has in like time that I went to school, I can't think of the time when they actually promoted the idea of like inventing things. I feel like that's what school should really be about. At least if you're like there, it should be about innovation. But realistically, you're there for obedience. You're taught how to memorize all these answers. Right? And you're not taught how to question things. The education system is conditioning you to follow instruction. And of course, to sit still, raise your hand, ask for permission. Even to speak, even to go to the bathroom. Which is like, why do I really need your permission to go to the bathroom? Isn't that weird? And then the media, of course. Actually, before we go into the media, what's actually funny is, in high school, you're given these assigned seats, right? And you think, oh yeah, assigned seats are so stupid. But then you've been doing it for so long, you get used to it. By the time you get to college, you literally sit in the same seat every single day, even though you don't have to. And it's like, how do I say this? It's like it's kind of like they're now giving you freedom, but because you've been conditioned to something for so long, you don't necessarily take a hold of that freedom per se. And it's kind of like they're laughing at your face. They're like, "Oh yeah, we pretty much programmed you." And I know this seems like a small thing, but think about that's just one example. But everything else, they basically have conditioned you. They basically domesticated you. It's kind of like when your dog, assuming you've trained it well. Yeah, yeah. I mean, assuming you've trained the dog well, right? You train it inside of your house in this closed-in quarter that you have, or maybe in your backyard or whatever. And then you trained it so well that even when you take it outside for a walk, let's say, the dog isn't running away, and it's not like even though it has the freedom to do that, it has the freedom to run away, but it doesn't. Why? Because it's been domesticated, just like how you have. You have the freedom to sit anywhere you want, but you choose to sit in the same exact seat. Why? Because you've been doing this your whole life, pretty much. And then on top of that, it's like the media reinforces the same narratives, right? Pushing you towards conformity. If you go against the mainstream, you're like seen as this. Basically, you're chastised. And you're seen as this like weirdo. And if you question it, it's like, how dare you question it? You're programmed to fear standing out, to ridicule those who question things, and to trust authority, no matter how wrong it may be. So at this point, it's not even education, really. It's indoctrination in disguise. And the fact that people don't see this is like alarming. And I really recommend you guys look into the history of the modern Western education system. I can't really go into it in detail here because I don't know how YouTube would react to that. Unfortunately, I think it flagged my video because of that. All I'm gonna say is it started in Prussia. That's all I'm gonna say. The rest of it you can do your research on how it started and everything. There's many videos on it. But yeah, the point is it started in Russia. In Prussia. I mean not Russia. Russia with a P. Russia. And then some American guy took it and brought it to America. And now the whole Western education system kind of follows that. But again, I won't go into too much detail because of YouTube's sake. The point is, I'll give you some basic examples of what programming can look like. You're basically told, go to college, get a job, retire at 65. And it's like, is this really all life is? And it's like no one's questioning why. Again, I'm not here to bash, you know, normal person. But at the same time, it's like, really, is that all life is? What about people before this? Before this, the modern Western education system existed, like, were we not more free? I feel like. In fact, remember there was like Like, historically speaking, even the peasants actually had more free time than we have today. Like, from, you know, I mean, just look at the work hours, if you will, and even the school hours. I mean, the fact that you would send your kids to be taught by a bunch of complete random strangers, and you don't know what these strangers are teaching your kids. In fact, I mean, I hate to go there, but think about all those children that get like basically, inappropriately assaulted. Let's just say to keep it, so that YouTube doesn't flag my video. Keep it, you know, in these terms. I have to say it this way, unfortunately, because of how sensitive YouTube is. Inappropriately assaulted, let's just say, by these teachers, and it happens like pretty often. But by like the male teachers and the female teachers. Female teachers are actually worse, if we're being honest here. It's like you're just taught to blindly trust authority, even when they're clearly wrong. And I'm just like thinking. I was actually doing some research, believe it or not, and I realized, wow, like the time that I wasted in school, you could have like literally learned like 10 languages in that time, probably more, honestly. But you could have been like this amazing polyglot, and not even just languages. I'm just using that as an example. It could be anything. But you're taught all these things, and it's like you're 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 basically teaching these kids a lot of useless things. And like the language thing that I was saying, it's just so frustrating, right, to say this, but it's like I could have literally been speaking 10 languages. 10 languages. And I am in the process of learning a language actually, you know. And I'm just like thinking, man, I would be so ahead. And I did some research online actually, where you could like learn. That's what I feel like parents should actually put their focus on kids is to learn languages. And I don't want to get into it too deeply, but I think languages honestly is a better indicator of higher IQ, if we're being honest here. But point is, yeah, like your kid could have spent time doing some actual amazing things. And that would have actually been more useful, like of course learning how to make money and all this stuff, right? Or dedicating themselves to a sport or anything really, any type of talent you could think of. And here you are, wasting literally their youth, wasting their time. And that's what pisses me off. And if you say this, parents just can't fathom the fact that your kid could not be above average. It's like, no, he has to be like everyone else. And like their like understanding of above average is just someone who's above average in the school system. Not really like that's still like in that education. You know what I mean? It's still in that field. You're not above average by staying in that. Like, sure, you're excelling in grades or whatever, fine. But you're still in there. My point. And this is why it's like I really like if we're being very honest here, there is no difference between a janitor and like let's say like a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer or data program or any of these jobs. Yeah, sure. The only difference is that the pay. Does it really matter if peasant gets paid slightly more? It's still the same. Like the only people that are free, if you will, are like CEOs or people who actually have, what, I don't feel like working today. They could just bounce if they wanted to. Those are the people that are actually free, if we're being honest here. Like I said, CEOs, entrepreneurs, all this stuff. And I know it sounds very cliche, especially, you know, everyone has this anti-view of entrepreneurship. I'm not sure why exactly. But, people mock those free thinkers and they celebrate the sheep. Tell if you You tell people, for example, that you're trying to start this business or you're trying to start something. Let's just say. And before the success comes, they're going to start mocking you. Oh no, you should be a bit more realistic. You should be, this and this and this. But it's like, we only got one life to live, really, in this world, right? And unfortunately, you're taught what success should look like, but it's not your definition. It's technically the definition that was given to you. And that is, of course, like I said, could be one of those higher paying jobs, which is fine. I'm not here to bash that. But do you really want to do that? Or is this something that you're like, oh, your parents are making you do this, or school system just, enforce it upon you, and you don't even really like it. If you love it, that's great. But if you don't like it, like, what the hell are you doing? You need to, like, break the loop and reprogram yourself. Like, reprogram yourself, basically, right? Because the reality is that we're all going to be programmed in one way or another. So we may as well program ourselves the way that we want to be. So you need to step back and ask, with like most of your core beliefs at least, and even your subconscious beliefs, where did this belief come from? That's literally where it starts from. Then you start reading and you start thinking and you start experimenting and challenging that belief, everything. And if it's outdated, let's say, or if it's not actually true, then don't let this outdated programming decide your whole future. Hopefully, like, I have made that point clear. All I'm gonna say is this, that the easiest way to do this is probably to think like not just a warrior, but like a warrior that's like a leader. Kind of like some kind of like Alexander the Great type of thinking that you need. Real freedom isn't just doing what you want, it's knowing why you want it. Or why do you want this? You you're not just rebelling for the sake of rebelling, right? You're rebelling with a reason. You're dissecting the default. You're questioning the unquestioned. You go beyond the programming. Your power lies on the other side. And at the end of the day, it's like that we get one life in this world, so we may as well do what we want to do in that world. And of course, I'm not saying this anything and everything, right? If you tell me that your world dream was to be like the greatest stripper in the world, obviously I'm not going to support that. But if it's like, I want to be let's just say, for example, you want to be a guy who can speak 10 languages, 20 languages, or you want to be a polyglot. Why haven't you done that? Oh, but I'm spending this time to, going to school and all this stuff. It's like, do you really want to do that? I mean, even in the school system, like, let's say like this: is there something in the school system that you actually like? Like, for example, I use the polyglot example. Would you become a teacher? Do you actually enjoy teaching, or do you just want to do this for yourself? Which is fine if you want to do it for yourself. But maybe you could become a teacher. I don't know. Or honestly, I wouldn't even say become a teacher. I would say like probably better off, honestly, just going on YouTube and teaching on YouTube. I honestly don't even know why. Like, I remember I spoke to this one guy. He said he wanted to become a historian. And I love history, as you guys can tell from my videos. I really like history. And I said I didn't say this like outright. I said it in a nicer way. In my head, I'm just thinking that's like the stupidest thing to do, is to become a teacher. And like he was basically saying, oh, like, I want to change the school system from the inside out. This is basically what he was implying. And it's like, it's so dumb because how are you going to change something that you have no control over? And I literally told him, bro, literally, you are better off just teaching history on YouTube. Like, literally, that's just better. Just look at it all. That's just so much better. Teaching it on social media in general, not just YouTube, but in social media in general, like Instagram, YouTube, or whatever. And I'm just like thinking, man, like your options today in the modern world are actually pretty like endless. You start teaching, just like how I am, but you can make it a bit more professional and like because I actually did interview a guy. Um, um, the channel is blanking, but it's actually the most viewed video so far right now, at least on the channel, the podcast that I did with him. And you could do something like that. You should go and watch that podcast. Actually, it was with his guy. His name is Milos, I believe, but he run the historical YouTube channel, and I actually respect that because it's like, and teaching people history, especially the type of teaching history that he's teaching, which is very not that well known, and he's teaching it from a very interesting perspective, which is what I like, and the animations and everything. Like you guys could do something like that. Like that's just an example if you want to do history. But the point is, why be a teacher? Why teach like 20 kids when you could literally teach the world on YouTube, on social media, and you don't have like some bitch ass professor saying, "Oh no," or principal saying, "You can't do that. You can't do that." Oh no, we can only do this. It's like, come on, use your brain a little bit. It's like, do I really need to explain this to you? Maybe you didn't think about this, but I'm just using that as an example. You can translate what I'm saying into whatever you want to do. But you need to start, like, if you've never thought about this, you really need to start thinking deeply about this because at the end of the day, you don't want to think about this when you have just a couple last breaths and you're on your deathbed and it's like, man, I could have really done that thing. And again, I'm not saying that, just throw everything out the window, but you know, like, man, you gotta, like I said, rebel with reason, right? Use your brain, right? Eh, Like, I'm stating the obvious, but that hopefully makes sense. Rebel with reason. Don't just, you know, throw everything out there. Use your brain and everything. Well, hopefully my point has standed clear, and that is, break yourself from the programming, right? Go beyond that programming. And in fact, programming yourself is so much better than being programmed by someone else at the end of the day. Now, if they say something that's useful, then, you can say that one thing or whatever, fine. But if it's not that, then why? Right? But hopefully I made my point clear. But, like and subscribe. And until next time.